Welcome. This is British National Party Television outside the Crown Court in Preston, Lancashire. Now we're here today to report on a particularly harrowing crime. Indeed, Philip Boyd, speaking for the prosecution, has likened this case to a story told by the Victorian novelist Charles Dickens. Now the prosecution's case begins in a small village called Zemlin in Slovakia in August of last year, where a 20-year-old girl, who cannot be named for legal reasons, decided to have a night out with her friends. While she was on this night out, she came to the attention of a Mr. Bordeaux. Now Mr. Bordeaux is a modern-day slaver, or is according to the prosecution. And Mr. Bordeaux befriended this young girl, plied her with drinks, and when the opportunity arose, he kidnapped her. He transported her all the way across Europe, firstly to London, and then from London to Bradford in Yorkshire, where Mr. Bordeaux had a base. Now Mr. Bordeaux knew many members of the Muslim colony in Bradford, and he used these contacts to find a buyer for his prisoner. And the buyer he found was a man called Mr. Khan. Now according to the prosecution, once the transaction had been concluded, Mr. Khan then took this young girl from Bradford to Burnley in Lancashire, where some of his relations owned a shop, and he installed this young lady in the upstairs rooms of this shop. He then used her firstly as a drudge to do the cleaning and the cooking, etc., etc. But he also used her in the arrangement of sham marriages. And worse still, he used her to satisfy his carnal lusts, which is why Mr. Khan is not only facing charges here today relating to slavery, but he's facing charges of rape and sexual abuse. Now, this case only came to light because a member of the public who lived in the street saw the suspicious movements of this huddled young girl moving around and reported the situation to the authorities, who got involved. Now the prosecution claimed that this young girl went along firstly with Mr. Bordeaux and then Mr. Khan out of fear. Fear arising from the fact that she was taken out of her normal environment. And she lived in confusion. She didn't know what people were saying around her. She didn't understand the language. But she was also frightened of physical punishment that might be inflicted upon her. Now it has to be stated that Mr. Khan and his co-defendants have pleaded not guilty to these prosecution allegations. And until the jury return with a verdict, it would be unfair to judge him. But what can be said without fear of contradiction is the fact that this sort of case is becoming all too common in British courts, indeed in courts right across Europe. And this modern day slavery, call it human trafficking, call it what you like, is a common feature of the European Union. And although nobody can determine the exact numbers of people, who are victims of this horrible crime, it is obviously widespread. And it means that many, many people in Europe live lives which are blighted by fear, exploitation and abuse. And those people who are concerned with social justice, concerned with the state of European civilization, say that when this horror is laid alongside other horrors that are going on in the European Union, the widespread use of paedophile cartels, the riots that keep erupting in European cities, the corruption at the top of society and the poverty at the bottom, the heroin trade, and numerous other horrors, people are saying that the European Union should stop using Beethoven's Ode for Joy as the artistic symbol of this political construction and start using Edvard Munch's The Scream instead. Thank you for listening.